intro's like, everyone sings it. We're live. We're not live. We don't do live anymore.
Well, hey guys, listeners all out there in the internet world, welcome back to Airplane Rollerblades, episode 4. Just some kids from Southeast Michigan talking some music. We're super stoked to have Kat Steih, aka Megaji, on the podcast.
Megaji? Yes. That's how it
Megaji?
Yeah.
I always said it was mega, like, mega is like that superlative quality to it. Megaji.
Yeah, but I like that mega. I'll think about that. That didn't come into my dream. Yeah, that name came from a dream that I had. I don't know if I told you guys about that.
Please tell us the story.
Well, I've been really into the idea of making up words for a long time, just because they, like, the different sounds and putting them together is so fun. And I was in Indonesia studying Bahasa Indonesia and studying gamelan 2 summers ago. And while I was there, I had this dream where this, like, angel or deity of some sort came up to me and said, "Iyo Megaji." I was like, whoa. That's like, amazing. What does that mean? And the deity said, it was like a male angel of some sort. And he said, "I'm so mesmerized that I'm amazed." And I was like, whoa, that's so cool. And I woke up and I was staying in this, like, little house in Indonesia, and there were always we were right next to a church, so there was always gamelan being played in the church. And I woke up and that was all going on, and there were kids running around, and I was just thinking about it. And I've interested in the idea of being mesmerized and that state of being in a flow state for a long time. And that's what I was always trying to accomplish in my music projects, was, especially in live performances, was this state where the audience and the performer are kind of locked into this mesmerized flow state together, where they're playing off of each other's energies. And so I was like, wow, that's exactly what this deity is talking about. Like, I'm so amazed at how in this flow state I am, or I'm so amazed at how mesmerized I am. And so that stuck around with me for a long time, and that's why I decided to make it my name. My music project.
An amazing way for a name to come to you.
Yeah.
I wish a name came to me ever.
It's
so
just like
easily.
beamed to me through like some sort of astral projection or something. I always thought that when I saw your name kind of typographically written out with the lowercase I and the big O, it kind of reminded me of like
I totally always thought that. I thought it was that. Yeah, like an interface, input output.
Yeah, that's what's cool about made up words and anything that's made up, really, because I'm interested in writing stream of consciousness things as well, and just writing whatever comes to me, even made up words. And what's interesting about that is that when you look back over it, you get all this meaning from it that you never would have come up with if you had just been making up the thing, in a kind of more thoughtful way. And then looking at the word Iyo, nowadays I really have been using the word Iyo more than Megaji, because Iyo, like with the Iyo band and stuff like that, and I named my first album Iyo, and there's so many different things that Iyo comes along with because of the I-O interface thing.
Right, totally.
And then also it kind of looks like a 1-0.
And so like binary.
Yeah.
Like, that's also occurred to me.
Yeah.
I never asked you. I don't know why I never asked you before, but I'm glad that I now got to yours.
Yeah. And one summer, like the next summer, I went to this music camp, and this other girl and we were talking about our moniker names, and her name is Jasmine, but she goes by Jawula. And she was like, I'm going to go this whole camp. No one knew us because everyone came from the camp and didn't know each other. She said, I'm going to go by Jawula. And I was like, whoa, I'll go by my name, Iyo Megaji, and we'll just tell them that that's our names. We'll write those on our name tags, and people will just call us that. And then we were like, but they're both so long, people will like have a hard time saying them. So she said, let's just shorten them. So she went by Ja, and I went by Iyo the whole week.
Wow.
And everyone was like, Iyo. And that was, first it was crazy telling people that my name was Io because I'd never ever gone by that before, but I really got into it after a while, even though the first day I felt really weird and
Did you feel like you were a different person?
Yeah, I totally felt like a different person. I felt like much quieter and more
Sasha
like
Fierce.
chill, and it was really crazy. And then I found out all these things about Io that I'd never ever heard before, like that Io is the name of a goddess in like the Roman tradition. She's one of Zeus's wives, and it's also Io is also the name of one of Jupiter's moons. And so I learned all these things about Io.
Just from the dream.
I know, it went on a whole thing. So that stuck around. I like that one.
So going from Io the person or Io the performer and going to Io the song, what's going on there? We have kind of a unique kind of understanding of that song because we
played it with you for a while.
helped record it as session musicians, so we got for that angle. But yeah, I just want to talk to you for our viewers out there, kind of where that song is coming from, because like there's some
no viewers.
no viewers. Well, you can like watch the picture sort of slowly evolve as you listen to the audio on YouTube. We usually have little symbol of the performer, and it like moves around the YouTube screen slowly for 45 minutes.
Well, I think what I wrote that song, and I wrote the music first, and then I didn't write the lyrics until after I went by the name Io at that camp, even though the song had actually existed before I left. And so I felt like that summer, because I was also going through all these vocal problems at the time, and it was really like kind of painful to talk. So that whole year I was like talking much less than I normally would because I was really sensitive about overusing my voice. And so, but I've always been a super talkative person. So it was kind of like this tension between deciding when to not talk and when to be silent and when to talk. And that was brought on by the necessity of having to talk less. And so when I was at the camp and going by Io, I was like also singing a lot for the camp, so I had to necessarily take more vocal rest and not talk in social situations. And so I felt like the name Io brought about this new personality as someone who was more quiet and like more under the radar and not really participating quite as much in conversations and not being as active of a person.
So that she was able to sing.
Yeah, well, not so much that, but like that that as well. But then, so like that prompted a whole thing of being like, what is the value of silence? What's the value of letting things go and not participating? And also at the time I was dating someone who was really quiet as well. And so it was like, I was exploring these themes of, you know, how much power can you have if you are a silent person? And then realizing that then through writing the lyrics, I was like, wow, you can actually have like a lot of power by being a silent person. And so that's what I was really exploring. And then the song further shaped, after I wrote the lyrics, the song developed a lot more after that. And the song ended up, I think, becoming kind of like musically a representation of the power that lies beneath the silent person, because I think we all know like lots of people who are really quiet who have like a real intensity about them, and who have like all of this internal power, but they're quiet. And so that song is like really intense, and like it's like it has a lot of screeching sounds, and it has like that really driving bass line and all of that. And so I felt like
the drums are going ham.
The drums are like going haywire and stuff. And so I feel that song was like a representation musically of the power that exists in someone who's quiet. And then the lyrics are describing like the magic of someone who's quiet and all of the things that they're tapping into by abstaining from acting.
Nice. If you guys are curious, that's actually on her debut LP that you can listen to on Bandcamp. That came out in September, last September. And the name of the album is Yo. Yeah. But you've been like super busy in the last year. You've had a lot of stuff. I mean, if you go to your SoundCloud page, for instance, there is a ton of stuff, and it's it's like all new material coming out all the time, kind of in chunks, and yeah,
just today.
Today you came out with a 3-song EP called The Improvisations. We were listening to that earlier today, but you put out another long play just a couple months back. That one is called Storm Rebel. So you are one of the busiest musicians that I know, just like constantly working on stuff, constantly putting stuff out. The amount of content that you have. I don't really know if I have a question. I just want to talk about kind of all the things that you've released in the past year, and like
there's a lot of differences too between you put out a lot of improvisations, and I think have you put stuff just on SoundCloud too that you didn't like? So what?
The SoundCloud page is a glorious rabbit hole of a ton of stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I think.
How do you decide when it's time?
Well, I think about 2 years ago, I was talking to my ADD coach. I've had an ADD coach for like 3 years. When I started, which came about because I was having a ton of school trouble, and then got hooked up with her. And she's become a real mentor for me. And one thing that she recommended was, because I was always making stuff all the time, like writing little songs or making little electronic things, but I never thought, oh, this is like a finished product or good enough to put out. But that just meant that it was all backlogged on my computer. And she said, you should just put it somewhere where, then you can have like a map of all the stuff that you've done, even if it's not, finished. And I was like, SoundCloud, that's perfect. That's exactly what SoundCloud is. And so I started just uploading anything that I liked when I made it. I just uploaded it as soon as it was done. And that's been a practice for me that I've kept up throughout this whole time, because I'll make things, but often they're experimentations, they're experiments with, they're experimentations or they're improvisations. I'm either experimenting with like a new sound or like experimenting with gear. Like a lot of those improvisations that came out after the EO album came out from me playing with the different vocal processing methods with that hand thing, that with like this MIDI controller hand, like motion activated hand thing that I called
it the utility belt.
Yeah, the utility belt. So
very cool thing.
Yeah, so like an experimentation with that particular piece of equipment, or they are improvisations that I've done on Ableton or made up with the guitar. And so I think that I'm constantly making new stuff pretty much every day, because that's my modality. I just make a new thing and then I'll put it up on SoundCloud. And then it's when I go back like a week later and I look over the stuff that I've put up that I think, wow, that was really good. Or I think like that could use a bit more work here. And that's when I decide to go back and work on something. And so right after the EO album came out, I was improvising all the time, but I didn't know what I was going to do with it. But I knew that I had like I knew that I wanted to make an electronic album that had a particular like grungy sound to it. And looking back over the stuff that I had put up on SoundCloud between September and February, I realized, well, here's the album right here. This is like exactly what I wanted it to be. And so I went back and I changed a few things and I like fixed a few things up. But with that hindsight, I thought this is pretty much exactly what I want it to be. And so I felt comfortable making that into an album and putting it up on Bandcamp and saying like, this is the album.
It's cool. The SoundCloud thing's a cool way to kind of keep tabs on what you've been working on. Because I know for me, I don't really usually post my little ideas that I have going on, and then often they get lost and I find them like 3 years later. Or never find them again.
Right.
And then when I do find them 3 years later, though, it's like, oh, this either was horrible or this was amazing. Yeah. I wish I had finished it.
Yeah.
You've never written anything that's like just all right?
No, there's no in between.
Yeah, I know. You're never like, oh, okay, whatever.
No, I guess I've had a few
That
whatever.
was
But I feel like if I
decent.
feel whatever, it's like, then it's fine that I left it behind. If it's whatever, I feel like you have to feel. If it's been years, you have to
Yeah,
feel
you have to
kind
feel
of
excited about
yeah.
it.
If you want to ever
Push
go
it
back to
further.
it.
Yeah. I'm just looking back now at the SoundCloud and being like, because now I really want to put out an acoustic album of acoustic songs because I have a ton of acoustic songs but have not put them into an album form. And I'm looking back over the SoundCloud and I'm like, yeah, I can see like where this is going to go, and I feel like I have more material to draw from.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So you mentioned the acoustic album. Do you feel like any sort of like pressure upon yourself, or that you put on yourself, to like have sort of like to have like I don't know what I'm trying to say, like a specific sonic identity. So like a lot of the stuff that you're putting out, it's like really
With electronics,
Yeah,
and
it
then,
uses
like,
a lot
whatever.
of sound design, and then like going and just like going to an acoustic album for instance. Do you
feel like that shouldn't be EO? Do you feel like that is still EO?
Yeah,
Is it?
because like when you recorded
That's like
Stuff
I'm
Summer, like
currently
you have
confused.
totally
about that.
electronic songs, you have totally like rock songs,
and I don't
you-
know how to release them.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I wonder about that. I think something with the EO Megaji is I want it to be malleable so that if there's a way for there to be a clear outlet for the different types of music while still being under like the EO umbrella. I don't know how the acoustic album is going to come out with that, but I think that EO Megaji, that name fits really well with the electronic
Yeah, totally.
stuff. And then going into, like, I know EO Megaji and the EO band fit really well for like converting those things into kind of a rock performance type thing. And so I'm not sure about how, but I know that I don't really want to choose. As of right now, I think I've really resisted choosing another name because it's like, that's just, I make all different types of music, and I feel like I still want it to be centralized to like Kat Steih.
Right.
You know?
I totally get, that's like, I'm currently in that,
Yeah.
it's like, I'm into a lot of different kinds of music, and I make all these different kinds of music. I want to be able to release it as me, but then people are like, what genre is your, and if you go from something that's just like acoustic, like a whole acoustic album and then a whole electronic, like grungy album, it's very different. So then it's like, what do you say? I'm acoustic, electronic, grunge, but like separately. I don't,
Right. I know, like, but then I think about, a few things, like, one, I just heard the most, like, if you think about classifications of how you're going to market your music, that seems like a big marketing thing, like, what's the genre of your album, or like, what name are you going to release it under? But I don't know if any of those I think that some of those old marketing ideas don't really apply to music today in a big way. Like, this is kind of going on a tangent, but one that I think is interesting, like, must have been the guy from The Who, one of the guys from The Who or something, and he said, why would I make an album today? Like, it's not going to come out in album form. Like, there aren't even albums anymore. Like, why would I make an album today? And I was like, mind blown. Like, why would you necessarily make an album if it's not being consumed in that literal, like, vinyl way by most people anymore?
But I do think that we had the era of like singles when iTunes first hit like everyone, but then with Spotify and all the streaming stuff, I think people have kind of turned back to listening to, whether you want to call it an album because it's not a physical thing, but like a series of songs that are related in identity.
I think people now, it's a little bit more malleable in like the way that they choose to consume music. So if they like just want to listen to a song, they can, or if they like associate 3 songs by an artist that they like in some coherent way, then they'll like listen to it that way. And like, you can make an album and the intent can be for your listener to like go top to bottom and listen to it in one sitting, whatever.
And then they just
But
might
like,
not do.
yeah, they might just choose not to because there are multiple options.
Yeah.
So it's harder to get your intent across if you're like making that. But it also just opens up, I think, maybe options as a musician. You can create different lengths and different formats that kind of suit different styles of art in a way, and you can kind of it gives you options. If the listener is going to listen to it in whatever way they want to, then yeah, maybe the EP makes more sense for like what you're doing at this particular time, or maybe an album does, or maybe just a single, or like something in between. I don't know.
Yeah. And more like, I think that going back to like the name discussion, it's not really like if we're not picked up by a major label and like we're releasing our own stuff, then it makes more sense to release anything you make under your own name, because that's the name that people are going to know you by, and you're not like being constricted by a record label to make a certain type of music.
Right, no one's telling you
the same
so.
line. But with an acoustic album, I could add sound design, do like a Sufjan Stevens thing. That's what I was thinking. I was like, damn, that would be really cool.
So you're leaning towards that, or are you just gonna see? You're gonna record
I'm thinking
the
about
acoustic
it. That
stuff
that might open up a whole new set of options. You know,
Right.
like you could take acoustic songs in like a crazy way if you're adding sound design to them.
Yeah, definitely.
That's kind of what Ian's doing right now.
Yeah,
and
have
what
you
he's
heard-
working on.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
definitely does a lot of acoustic sounding stuff, but with like a lot of sound design that totally goes into outer space.
Yeah. I think that's so cool. It's a really good blend.
I was, this is totally pivoting topics, but I was curious about how you have all these different projects going on that are EO, you as solo, you as like you and Bobby Jack you had going on for a little while, you had the EO band, and I was just wondering like how do these different forms represent your music differently, you know?
Yeah.
Is there a different goal?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, you know, there really are, because I think that one, I just think it's so cool to be talking about this with you guys, because it's been kind of a point of confusion for me, and something I've been trying to figure out myself is like, to like clearly define the different goals that I have, because I have like strong semblances of them, but they're not super clearly defined. I think one strong goal of mine is just to make music. Like, I just love improvising. I just love writing songs. Like, and so there's just like a purely musical format to it. But then the other goal is to have, that I'm really starting to work on really strongly now, is to have a performance art aspect of it that is really strong. Like, when I've been really influenced over my life by performing, because when I first started being in a band when I was like 13 or 14, I was the lead singer, and my guitar player, we just had this great vibe, and we would go back and forth, and there was like this flow experience in performing every time that I talked about earlier. And then as time went on, and more recently I started being really influenced by artists like Crochet Cat Paws and like other people in the more like noise scene here in Ann Arbor that is really performance based. Like, because they're using lots of electronics, they have to be more adventurous with the different types of performances they have, so there ends up being more audience interaction and kind of or like skits that are done in between, and stuff that's really fantastic that's brought into the music. So instead of being just like a musical performance in kind of a rock sense, or like you're just there for the music, people also come to the performance in order to engage in this fantasy world, where this whole, and the fantasy world is often, has certain elements of life heightened in it, like intensity is heightened, or like goofiness is heightened, or something like that in some fun way, and reality is suspended, and you're able to engage with people in a different way. And so that has been something that I've been really influenced by, and I wanted to bring that more into the performance. So that's what EO and Bobby Jack really started to become, because Tessa, who's Bobby Jack, and who now goes by a different name, Soothsayer, because she's making new music too, we had to use a lot of backing tracks, and so we had to branch out into like engaging and kind of dancing and doing all this other stuff. And it really became like it started making me go like, man, I want to do like skits, or I want to do dancing, or I want to do all this other stuff. And so that really started me off on the goal of creating a performance that was more theatrical. And then just this summer, a few weeks ago, my friend Rose from March of the Ant and I went to Europe, and we went to Barcelona and stayed with a guy named Django Edwards, who's a clown who works in Europe. And so we were like opened up to the whole clown world, which we don't really see much of in the US. Like we see acrobatics, and we see like hula hoopers and fire dancers and all that stuff. But clowns are like a whole different deal. They just do such goofy stuff.
What's up in the clown world?
The clown world is just really funny. It's crazy.
World.
Like basically it's just like Reggie Watts. Have you guys ever watched Reggie Watts?
Yeah. No.
It's basically like being goofy on stage and distorting reality in like a funny, goofy way.
Uh-huh.
And it is also, clowns are like super serious about it. It's a whole lifestyle,
They're super serious about being not serious.
Silly. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, like
I love that.
yeah, like it's just a lifestyle.
It's like comedians.
Yeah.
Comedians. I mean, and rightfully it should be. It's like a serious art form for most.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But so is clowning.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's such a
Apparently.
serious, like, it's about like just being silly and also taking social norms and like turning them on their head, and so that really influenced me a lot. And so that's my other goal, is to branch out into this more performance aspect of it.
I think the performance art aspect is like kind of a weird common thread between a lot of Ann Arbor bands.
Mm-hmm.
Even like you see
Ann
it
Arbor
in Wolfpack,
especially.
even like them who are definitely a way more
they're not doing it with backing tracks. They're playing live,
and they're not trying. But they are so
there is
theatrical, and
yeah.
like Jack is trying to be. I mean, not trying to be. He just is naturally totally funny, and it's part of. But the goofiness is like a huge part of their thing. So yeah, I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's not as explicit maybe performance art as some of the stuff we're talking about.
Yeah,
but it's like definitely there.
It's definitely present.
Yeah, I agree so much, and I think that's so cool. Like, I love what Reggie Watts does, and I haven't even seen Wolfpack, but that's so cool that they do that, because that really cements that for me about how that's a big thing in the Ann Arbor scene.
Yeah,
Totally
they are
is.
so goofy live. There was this whole it was kind of like a skit that they did when I saw them at the Blind Pig a little bit ago. They did this whole thing about give them an enema, and the whole crowd was like chanting that. It was so funny.
Yeah. And when you can punctuate, music can be so funny in that way. Music can like punctuate that stuff so well. That's my dream, is to include music into that. But right now I just don't have the mental attention or the skill to do that all at the same time.
I feel like it's weird to tread that line. That's where it becomes hard for me, between like this is a serious or emotional or whatever song, and then I'm just also being goofy. It's hard to like that line is a weird one.
Yeah.
But sometimes the darker theme songs kind of need a little bit of that comic relief in some way.
That just makes me think of I think that used to happen with Tessa and me all the time, because I was you have to be comfortable in order to do it. And I feel like with Tessa, I was so comfortable with being in these really dark songs, but then feeling so comfortable with hanging out with her that I had the energy to just recognize a comic impulse when it would come. And one time I was singing a very early version of the song Lost and Found, which is on the EO album. And at that time the song was really dark and about missing someone or something. And then I just all of a sudden realized how funny it was that I was complaining about this dude that I was singing about in the song, and I just made a funny face and kind of made a joke while I was singing, and everyone just burst out laughing because everyone else is so caught up in it, and then they all felt the comedy too, and I was like, ha ha ha, it was so fun. That's the shit that I live for.
Yeah, being able to laugh at those
Yeah.
dark, horrible things.
Yeah.
So, how do you, or how does the performance art kind of aspect make its way into the EO band, in that form, or does it? I guess and how does the addition of live musicians where like just the way that their own kind of musical mental processes work are going to influence the tune, change it in some way?
Well, I think like. With the performance art thing, I feel like I felt when I was working with the EO band, it was the first time that I had ever worked with a band like on my own. And so in being like, okay, these are my songs, like you guys like here, let's learn them. And so with the EO band, and they are all such great people that they're like, yeah, Kat, this is like your thing and we're doing it with you, but there wasn't like, I felt like we didn't get too much into the performance art aspect of it other than me being a singer and like performing in that way. But we started to write new material kind of before things started to get really busy and we had to stop practicing, but we were writing all this stuff like, for me, working with a band, like, it's almost uncomfortable it's uncomfortable for me to be like, this is what I want the song to be, and
this is how you should play it.
This is how you should play it.
Yeah.
I think playing with you guys, it was different because those songs were songs that I had for a long time, so it was really strong in my head what I wanted.
But you still definitely gave us a lot of freedom.
Oh yeah, I felt like that was pretty democratic. I mean, like, the way that it kind of changed over time. Yeah.
But
you definitely did have a pretty solid idea.
Right. Then after working with you guys, I was writing new material where I was like much, much, much less attached to how it would go, and then it becomes like super democratic. Like, I'll take it in to play with people and it could totally change like on a dime, like they could play something else. And then I'm like, all right, well, this would sound better with I'll change what I'm playing to go off of what you're playing. And that's what the EO band, when we were writing new material, that's what we would do. And we were writing some crazy stuff, like, that was probably going to get really into the performance art thing. We wrote this, like, song that was, like, pink, or disco, at the futuristic mall. We just like made up these words, and we were like going back and forth, and it was like we were coming up with this whole performance of it. And so I think that's like the performance art comes off of the interplay of the musicians, and when they get goofy, you get goofy, and so it's all part of that democratic process of like bouncing off of each other.
Sweet. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I feel like I keep interjecting when you're about to say something.
Well, you mentioned like earlier, and we talked about it before you came here, that you've had, well, I know in the past you've had some vocal, you had gone on vocal rest, and I know recently you had a vocal surgery. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Just like...
Yeah, how does that affect your process?
Oh, yeah. Man, well, it affected it in a humongous way because... So I started off playing, years ago I started off as a singer, and I was a singer for a long time, and that's like all I did. And then I started, about like 2 years ago, when I started going to U of M and taking singing lessons, I noticed that all my teachers were like, what the hell's going on with your voice, Kat? Like all these trained singers were all like, there's just something, your voice sounds really strange. And I like... was really taken aback by that because I was like, what do you mean my voice sounds strange? But then I went to this teacher, and I took it super personally. And then I went to this teacher for a little bit, and she was like, Kat, I hate to break this to you, but I think you've got some vocal issues and you should go to the doctor and get scoped out. But you have no idea with your own voice, like what it sounds like to other people, and also like being in an untrained vocal world, which is where like it's just super different from a trained vocal world, where they have completely different expectations of what you're able to do with your voice and what it'll sound like, and if you're on pitch or not, or like blah blah blah. And so around that shoot, I was like, fuck, you know, because I'd kind of been afraid of it for a while because my voice had been feeling kind of weird for a few years. It had been like 3 years or something that it had been feeling strange after singing and all this stuff. And so that's when I really started, that coincided with, I had been interested in writing songs for a long time, but that's what really drove me into doing more electronics. And like, I started doing electronics so much more heavily. One, because I was embarrassed about singing and became like super self-conscious about it. And two, because it was also, I had met people, I had friends who were interested in electronics, so I was like, and I was interested in it too, so I was like, okay, I can do this. And so that totally changed my process, and I stopped singing. My singing like dwindled down to being like something that I barely ever did, and I still considered myself a singer, but it became a much smaller part of my musical life, and electronics became a huge part of it. And that's what led to me playing electronics live. Like, I improvised using electronics in the improv ensemble CAO that I was in at U of M, and I started writing more songs using solely electronics, and I also started like taking more time to listen to music and learn about other styles, all because I couldn't sing anymore. So now I'm excited to be able to sing in a way that is going to be like totally different than it ever was before. Like, already my range is so much increased. It's insane how much easier it is.
What exactly did they do?
So it turns out that I had a cyst. That a cyst is different from a node, because a node comes from like repeated rubbing, but a cyst is just, you know, something that, like a small piece of like hardened stuff that can just come up. The doctor was like, it can just come, it can just happen. And so they opened up the vocal fold and they scooped it out and then they closed it, and that was it.
Wow. So how long did you have it? You have no idea?
I think I had it for like 5 years.
Wow. But you didn't get it checked out until...
Yeah, until 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Or I guess it was 2 years ago. Maybe 1 year ago.
That's
and
crazy.
the surgery was like recent.
Yeah, the surgery was just 2 weeks ago.
Damn.
Wow.
And you already see, like, tell a difference? That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's really exciting. That's
yeah,
like...
super exciting.
It kind of led you down this path of electronics, and now you have... You're back to... You have the electronics, and now you also can sing.
Yeah, I'm so pumped.
So in addition to those two things, you're also a guitarist a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about your background in that, because I've kind of watched you play guitar and played guitar with you in certain situations, but I just don't know where that came from or how that came about.
Well, guitar, I really fell in love with the guitar watching Jimi Hendrix play guitar. I was like, holy shit. And I think it's because I've always wanted to sing like a guitar sounds, you know? Like a guitar can just be like, and do all these crazy things. And then watching Prince play guitar, those are my two favorite guitar players that I've ever heard and seen. And so my first year of college, I failed out of college, and then I went back to Washtenaw, and my parent, which is a community college in Ann Arbor, and my parents were like, if you get straight A's for 2 years, we'll buy you a guitar. I was like, okay. So I did, and then they bought me a guitar. And
Fuck yeah.
I had always used a guitar to like write songs, but then I started getting into the guitar, like, you know, I just love the sound. It's like such an amazing instrument, I think. So I don't use it a ton, but I do use it when I'm playing in band settings a lot. And I love it.
So you only started... When did you start playing then? Like...
No, that was probably my second instrument. Like,
Oh, okay.
I started really playing it in high school.
Oh, okay,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
And then you got, like, a sweet guitar later after the deal was made.
Yeah, way later. Oh, yeah, I guess
Is
the
that the
first
black
guitar.
Les Paul?
Yeah. I guess my first guitar, my parents, when my family used to live in Germany when I was in middle school, and then when I moved back to the U.S. for high school, my parents got me a guitar that summer before we moved back. So that's when I really started playing.
I would say
Mm-hmm.
that'd be crazy if you hadn't played. I always thought you
Yeah.
played at least from high school. 'Cause
Yeah.
you can just tell when people are like more comfortable with
Right.
an
Yeah.
instrument. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they just have the muscle memory.
Yeah.
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 Right.
I wanted to talk about this. The last time that we kind of hung out and talked, we were kind of discussing the concept of touring and how to plan it.
Do that.
Yeah, how to do it. What the goals are of getting out of it. I guess. Do you have any updates on kind of that?
Yeah, not really. I think I've been thinking about that a lot because a big part of that question is like, if you're going to tour, that's what you said. You said you should think about like, what's your goal for touring? And I think that touring, it sounds like a really fun time, like if you do it with people that you really love, and if you if you're able to work out a situation where you can like come back relatively soon, if you're like not out on the road, maybe you got like, that's just my impression but it can also be really exhausting. So right now I think that I'm planning a few like weekend tours for July, and that's going to be
Where
the
at?
next thing. Well, Ryan Shea and I are planning on going to, we just talked about this today, doing like a Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, New York tour. And that's
As
because
like your separate things are playing together.
I think we haven't really figured that out yet.
Oh.
I think that we're going to do our separate things. But because we know people in those areas. So that's, and then the other thing was that another friend of mine, Alex, we both know people in Chicago, so we're probably going to be going out to Chicago to play at the Dollhouse and play at some other places. And then we also just I found out from a friend that you can go up and busk in Manistee and they'll pay you. The city will pay you to do that. Manistee, Michigan, which is up near Traverse City.
Yeah, it's up on
cool.
the west side of the state.
Ah.
So those
July
are the
4th. Wanna go to Manistee?
Yeah.
yeah, we should talk about that because
You
Ryan
trying to
Shea
go
and
there?
I are also trying to go up there.
Ooh,
and
maybe we'll all go to Manistee and
yeah,
busk on the
and go
street.
busk. Dude, that would be killer. And he said that people are really nice up there, and so you get paid, but then I think you can do tips as well. So those are all like small tours, kind of just to places that we know, where we know people.
Sweet.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a whole list. Go ahead, Sam. if you
Oh,
got
well,
something already.
I was excited about a week ago, probably, to learn of this new supergroup
Oh my
of
God.
Southeast
You took
Michigan
it.
musicians that you're a
my
part of.
topic.
It includes
Snatched it.
Willa Ray, is that correct?
True.
Also, I'm blanking on her name.
Stacy?
Stacy
Dear
from
Darkness.
Dear Darkness. Yeah, she's a badass.
Yeah.
And you're involved in it as well. And is there a fourth?
Yes. So
Number?
my voice is starting to feel like kind of hoarse. Can I start using my dictation?
Go
software?
for it.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Can
Can we introduce what's going on?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So yeah, so because Kat's still recovering from surgery, she had a couple weeks back. She has created this program on her computer that'll do dictation. So I think are you
It's just gonna
typing
talk
in
out.
your speech
Oh, I'm
into
so
the computer,
excited.
and the computer will talk
Can
it out
we
for
give
you?
the mic?
Yep. Let's
Oh,
mic this.
Oh. I don't know.
Oh,
Hold on. Our
oh,
setup
Xbox
here.
is fighting back.
Oh.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah, and Sam, you can let us know how this sounds.
Okay.
Yeah, give us a little test.
Okay, hang on. Let me do this.
The supergroup.
Oh my goodness! Yeah,
All
if you
right.
get the mic a little bit closer, but yeah, it's picking it up for sure.
The podcast like no other.
Oh wow, this is great.
No one will know if it's actually Kat talking now, or we just took over and made our own answers.
Yeah, she actually laughed.
Kat left because Kat just got bored, so she put a computer in her place.
Cat is a robot now.
Perfect.
Oh my goodness!
like play music.
Are you typing now out about supergroup stuff? All right. Yeah. well, in the meantime, as Kat types out about supergroup, you can talk about the other bands in the supergroup. It's Willa Ray is a band from Detroit, and they have also played at Vale House.
Willa Ray and the Minor Arcana.
And they're awesome, and she just released a full length, I believe. Yeah? No?
She released
something
new music.
big. Yeah, something.
It may have been an EP.
But I think it was the first recorded thing that they have put out, I think. So, and they've spent a lot of time working on it, I know, because they were starting working on it last summer.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, go check them out. And
Dear Darkness is also from the Detroit area, and they are a garage rock duo. Hamtramck area?
Actually, I'm not sure. We played with them in Hamtramck. I don't know.
Yeah.
From.
And Trumbleplex.
Yeah.
Yeah, we played with them a couple times.
They're from Ferndale. We played with them at the Loving Touch. That was they were local.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. Well,
Detroit area, they're all around. You can catch
Stacey
them in a number of places.
They're super cool. And they're like a duo.
Yeah, think of White Stripes if Jack White was a girl.
Sure.
Yeah. It's pretty badass.
And is there anyone else in it that we're missing?
Did you talk about Laura?
I don't know, Laura. All right, you'll have to talk about Laura, and you'll have to type about Laura.
Yes, the supergroup. Right now,
Oh, she goes.
I am in a temporary band called Fire is Born.
Fire is born.
The temporary band emerged because the organization Girls Rock Detroit is doing a fundraiser called Rock Roulette. Female musicians applied to be a part of Rock Roulette, and we were then organized into bands. Our band, with Willa, Stacy, and Laura, was randomly put together, and we love each other.
Aww.
That's wonderful.
That's awesome.
Great ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what does everybody play instrument-wise in that group, and what can we expect
And where can we see
the
you?
tunes to sound like?
I play guitar, sing, and do electronics.
What's that face over there?
There's a bug.
Oh, there's a bug.
Oh, it's gone
Also,
now.
Allison's over there.
I am. I'm chilling in the corner.
Yeah, Allison, we invited her to be our color commentator on the podcast today, just to have a fourth person to...
I sat
give
down and they
inputs.
shoved a mic in my face. Told me to talk.
That's what happened. I remember it being a little bit more
I
democratic.
know you think it's the TV room, but this is the podcast room.
Oh, okay, okay.
Podcast first, TV second.
I play guitar, sing, and do electronics. Laura plays drums. Stacy plays guitar and sings. Willa plays bass and sings. We sound like a punk Joy Division, kind of like The Cure.
Joy Division or The Cure. Okay, so I think this is going to be sweet.
Yeah, where will we catch you guys? I assume a Girls Rock Detroit fundraiser. Yeah.
She's nodding.
On June 17th, we are playing at Smalls.
Nice. That's in Hamtramck. Just quick tiger. Quick tiger.
That's where the fundraiser is.
Okay. I think I can hold it out with talking a little bit more.
We can totally wrap up soon if you're
Okay, yeah,
if
let's
your
just
voice
do like
getting
5
tired.
more minutes.
Let's see. I was gonna ask. Okay, I think this is an interesting topic. I think we've touched on it with a few other people that have come in, but I think it's like everyone has a little bit of a different take on it. Since you've also been very involved in like the university music scene and everything, that sometimes overlaps with the DIY scene and sometimes very much does not. Kind of just how do you navigate those two worlds that I think we're both a part of both worlds. So a lot of people, there are definitely some people that are very strictly a part of one world or the other.
Right.
And so having your feet in both worlds, how is that for you?
Well, I feel like I really learned a lot from my time at U of M in the music school. Like, I learned so much, especially, I think the biggest thing that I learned was the importance of learning from other people who are in your field, especially people who came before you.
Mm-hmm.
That was something that I had never ever been accustomed to thinking about before, because I think in the DIY scene, at least how I had experienced it, there was a huge focus on like just originality, like just what are you going to do?
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
A little more
Yeah,
of
and
that mentality.
yeah, while then when I started taking lessons in the music school and even at camps and stuff, there's a big like, where does this come from? Like, where is this influence in your music? And I still don't like, you know, who influenced you to do this? And at first I was like, well, that's kind of dumb because nobody influenced me. Like, I didn't think of this. It's not like I stole this from somebody else.
Right.
Yeah,
But I think
sometimes it's unconscious, or
Yeah, right.
or it's a web of things that you didn't even really know.
Or it's
about.
not even musical web. Like it's, you know, it's like you went to a baseball game and something like
Yeah.
some weird sound that happened made you think a thing, and then that
right.
brought a lyric up and that made a song.
Is this
Yeah.
a true story, someone?
No.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too. I was like, probably happened.
I don't know why baseball game came in my head.
Just like, wow. But then
Thing of the bat. I don't know.
yeah.
So it did happen.
I wouldn't be surprised. That would be so cool. But then, but I think what I did learn is like, I learned how to learn from other people. I think that's what I got out of that whole thing. Like, I'm on a huge Prince kick right now, and like studying his songs in a way that I never would have done before I went to school. But, so I think, like, that was one really important thing that I learned from school. But those two worlds, like, they're definitely different, but I think that the only reason that they're different is because the musicians in the music school are super trained and the musicians in the DIY scene are not super trained. And that's not necessarily speaking, like, I'm not going to say, there are of course exceptions to the rule, but like, that means that there are things in the music school that people appreciate that people in the DIY scene won't appreciate, or they don't hear, or they can't appreciate, or just because that's not like the level that they're on. And I found that to happen to me all the time in the music school. People would like be like, I love how you did this, and I was like, oh, I didn't even notice that. I didn't notice like that you did that at all. And they're like, yeah, that suspended fourth chord, that's crazy, and or that suspended four or whatever, and I was like, what do you mean? You know, like, just because that was never a part of my world, and I hadn't had the training to like appreciate that. But then of course, like in the DIY scene, there's what people might not have in training, or they might have training. Like, I'm sure this is going to piss off anybody who wants to listen to this and like wants to not like what I'm saying, but the people in the DIY scene, I think, make up for anything that they didn't learn in school with like real bravado and creativity. And that is something that I felt that is such a blessing, like playing with people who are just like, I don't care if I make a mistake, like I don't care if it sounds weird. And so there's just,
Yeah, I definitely think that attitude can be missing from
I think
just musical attitude.
I think what I learned a little bit from the DIY scene is I think at a certain point in my musical life or journey, being proficient on a technical level, on a theoretical level, was extremely important to me. I wouldn't say it's like the only thing, but it was, definitely important. And I think what I learned from just like getting to be a part of the DIY scene is that's just like another tool that you can use in your music, but it's one of a lot, and like it doesn't really dictate one way or the other if you're able to like do personal expression in an artistic way.
yeah. That's so true. And especially like, I think that people who have been in the music school, like people who like are in just that world for a long time probably feel that too. They probably feel like, I felt like in the music school there's always, for me there was kind of like an overwhelming sense of you're not doing this right, and I think that just comes from being self-conscious about what you're doing and wanting to do it right, you know, and that is like, so I just feel like now that I'm not in the music school, I feel so like I loved being able to go to band practice with Fire Is Born and be like, oh, what I'm playing sounds weird, and then someone else plays something and it sounds just as weird as what I'm playing, and they're like, fuck yeah, and I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, you're right, it doesn't even matter, like, it sounds awesome, and I knew it sounded awesome the whole time. I was just getting kind of psyched out about it. And I think that whenever, you know, I don't want to like talk down on my teachers or anything, because my teachers taught me things that have benefited me in huge ways.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know, and I did hear but I did like, I think being a part of a school, you're gonna get cut down in some ways, and that was something that I experienced in the music school world. That I guess that's kind of off topic and just shows how I'm a little bit raw about that.
Maybe a certain amount of it
totally
sort
on
of
topic.
like is essential to like learning and growth and stuff, but at the same time it does sort of create this illusion that there's like a right and a wrong, and there's like a something that the things that are about music that make it correct. That I think can be problematic. Definitely, you kind of need to free yourself of that when you're making it.
Right.
a little
Yeah.
bit. But it helps to have the knowledge, obviously.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it's both.
Yeah, because that's the reason I went in the first place, right? Was
Yeah.
like to get the knowledge, because I wanted to know.
You sort of you have to like go through the process and learn everything and then forget it.
And then
Forget
forget
that.
it.
Yeah. No, I totally. That is. Yeah. The
That's-
way.
That's the way.
Learn it all and forget it all.
That's true.
Or, as they say in freshman year music theory, learn the rules so you can break them.
You can break
I
them.
think that's kind of universal. I learned that in like writing too.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think you can
guess.
just apply that to just about anything.
Yeah.
Suppose.
Yeah, because also I think another
Society.
thing is like you just learn about different
Society.
ways to do things. You know, I learned about, that was a big thing about music school, was I just learned about so many different ways to do things, and that I really value in a huge way.
Sweet. Should we wrap it up so that you don't injure your voice? Thank you
Yeah.
so much for coming on, even though it's only a few weeks out from your vocal surgery.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. It was
yeah.
such a
Last
pleasure.
talking.
Io Megaji, Kat Steih. Check her stuff out on Bandcamp and
Yeah.
Facebook, and she
before-
just put out new stuff.
Yeah, today literally. Before we go, do you want to plug any shows that are coming up?
Yeah, I would love to. So on Sunday, for any of you in the Ypsi, Ann Arbor area, I'm playing at the Farmhouse. This is going to be the newest. The Io Megaji set is going down this performance art road that I've been talking about, and I'm going to be playing in front of a giant bonfire at 10:30 p.m. It's going to
Oh.
be super witchy.
Sunday?
Oh, nice.
On Sunday.
All
It's going
right.
to be super crazy.
Sounds
really
awesome.
excited. And then on June 24th, I'm going to be opening up for the band Astro Bright, who's a shoegaze band who's coming in from from Chicago. And that's going to be at Club Above on the 24th. And on the 25th, I'm going to be playing at Club Above also with some Ypsi bands. Sorry, I don't remember exactly who is on that bill, but that's going to be really cool. And then July, oh yeah, the end of July, I've got a show at the Blind Pig on July 28th with Arson Party, Echo of Silence, and Damascus.
Nice.
Wow.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
like Veil Satan,
Yep,
but
yep.
Veil
Is that the
Satan number
exact
2.
lineup of
Yeah,
Veil Satan?
that, I think it was, yeah.
Same metal with some metal bands. We found that to be a good connection. So
Oh, yeah.
we're gonna be playing at the Blind Pig.
Oh,
and the
nice.
Detroit band Bronze Mambas is gonna be joining us on that bill too, and they're
Oh.
super cool. They're like, they're crazy cool.
What genre are they?
They're kind of like Led Zeppelin-y. They're
Okay,
a
yeah.
3-piece. The guy's got an awesome voice and uses like a voice box. And,
Awesome.
yeah, they're sick. They played at Hash Bash this year, and then we're gonna be in Kalamazoo too, on the 31st of July. So yeah, you can
Got
go
a
to the
lot coming
Megaji
up.
Facebook page to check out all those dates.
If you guys are in Michigan, definitely check that out.
Bye.
I guess we're good. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.